This is the Louie T Network. You are now officially in the lab room. It's that time again. It's that time again to go hard in the off season, cause we trying to win. We gon' go so hard, we don't take no days off. Hopefully one day it's all gonna pay off.
Hey yo, who else could it be? Me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to the 2017 NFL Draft Wrap-Up Series, where your man Louie T aims to break down all 32 teams in the National Football League's 2017 NFL Draft using our baseball grading scale. Single, double, triple, home run. There are no strikeouts here in the Draft Wrap-Up Series, as we cannot tell how these players are going to pan out, and I don't want to discount any of these young men before they get their chance in the National Football League. And so we'll get a score for each and every single player selected in said team's draft. We'll divide by the number of picks, which will then yield us an overall grade for that team's draft. We'll then move on to the next team in the series picked by you. That's right, you, the viewer out there, are in total control, as this is the you pick format, or as I like to call it, the up format. Simply be the first to leave a comment in the comment section of this and future videos in this series stating two things: the phrase next and the team you'd like to see next. Really simple process. You guys have done a phenomenal job this season. Only had about 2 or 3 slip-ups, so continue doing what you have done thus far throughout the process, and we'll get this thing knocked out in short order. Some examples: Chargers next, L.A. next. Well, probably can't say L.A. anymore because there's more than one team in L.A., but you get where I'm going with this. Chargers next, Bolts next, whatever. Just make it efficient, make it fast, and be first, and that team will be up next in the series as long as you got the 2 components in that comment and you're first. So with that being said, let's get to the next team in the series, the Los Angeles Chargers. And this is a bittersweet breakdown here because Tom Telesco, Tommy T, continues to knock it out of the box. The one thing the Chargers aren't lacking is talent, okay? The issue with the Chargers is health. Every single year we have the same discussion. Can the Chargers stay healthy? Can they keep Phillip Rivers upright? Can the offensive line not be in shambles? Yada, yada, yada. We say the same thing. If this Chargers team could just stay healthy. And what are we saying before the season even gets started? Damn, this Chargers team just can't stay healthy. We're waiting on Keenan Allen to go down for the season, and I hope it doesn't happen. Okay, I'm not trying to jinx anything, but it seems like a yearly occurrence. We're waiting for that to happen. They've already lost their 2nd round pick, so like I said, it's bittersweet. 1st round pick is out of commission right now, and we don't know when he'll be back, if he'll be back in his rookie campaign. They always try to downplay injuries of 1st round picks, especially at the receiver position, because no one wants to admit that you're getting nothing out of your 1st round pick in their rookie season. No organization, no team, no fan base likes to admit the fact that you're getting absolutely nothing out of your 1st round pick. The Bears didn't want to admit it with Kevin White. The Redskins didn't want to admit it with Josh Doxson last season. Teams don't like to admit that they're getting nothing out of their 1st round pick. But the fact of the matter is, with a hurt back at a position like receiver, with a guy that has basically missed all of offseason camp and now missing training camp, how realistic is it that Mike Williams is just going to jump in, even if he does get healthy at some point? How realistic is it that he's going to jump in to a complex position like receiver, make the transition from a spread to a pro-style offense? Remember, he's coming from Clemson. They did not have a pro-style offense, to just jump in and really contribute for this football team. Highly unlikely, but I said all of this to say this. This is a Chargers football team that is still talented, and this is another draft that's going to add to that talent pool. So let's jump into it, but just know that it is a bittersweet draft because before we can even see the product on the field, 2 of the biggest names out of this draft for the Chargers are already on the shelf. As we jump into the 2017 NFL Draft for this Chargers football team, starting the 1st round, 7th pick overall, Clemson wide receiver Mike Williams. is the selection. And I'm not going to break Mike Williams down. I've already done that in the Draft Prospects 101 series. So if you're looking for a thorough breakdown of Mike Williams and other prospects I was able to get to prior to the draft taking place, go to my channel, Louie T Network. Make sure that you're subscribed, by the way, if you haven't already done so. And click on the playlist section where you will find 2017 Draft Prospects 101 series. And those videos will be there for your pleasure. But I will say this. The reason the Chargers drafted Mike Williams was because of all of the problems at the receiver position from past years. Stevie Johnson going down to injury and not working out. I talked about the receiver that goes down each and every single year that we all like in Keenan Allen, who is a beast and a stud when he's healthy, but it's rare that he's healthy. And so you're thinking to yourself, look, we can't afford to have Keenan Allen go down this year and have to rely on a bunch of no names and guys that are undrafted or late round draft choices. We need to have some insurance. Mike Williams was going to provide them with that. He was going to be that #1 big time target for Phillip Rivers to throw the football to, which he hasn't had consistently since Vincent Jackson ages ago, it seems like. And so that was what he was supposed to provide. He's already hurt, nursing a back injury. Remember, he had a catastrophic neck injury while at Clemson. So this guy isn't immune or foreign to big time major injuries. Your back is nothing to play with. I don't have to tell you that. So they need to proceed with caution here with Mike Williams. And I fully expect them to do that, which is why I don't think, and I'm not optimistic that he's going to really help you all that much in his rookie season. He's trying to downplay it. The teams want to downplay it, but bottom line is this is a guy with some size, with some ability to go and high point the football, the ability to run. He's a lot faster than I gave him credit for initially when this process got started. And he's also a guy that can win just off of sheer physicality. The guy's 6'4", around 215, 217, 220 pounds. He's a big man with a long catch radius and a larger catch radius than your normal standard run-of-the-mill NFL wide receiver. And so this is a guy that was supposed to come in and help this Chargers offense immensely with his ability to just go and get the football. You're going to have to wait and see what he brings to the table, because I, frankly, am not encouraged by what I've heard. And I've seen this movie before with different teams with first-round wide receivers. Generally, the movie ends the same. They shut the guy down and realize we'll have to try again next season. I'm thinking that's what's going to ultimately happen for the Chargers and Mike Williams. But I will see, just like you'll see. But I tell you what, when healthy, you're getting yourself a big-time target at the receiver position, one that you are currently lacking when Keenan Allen isn't on the field. And so in the first round, 7th pick overall, Clemson wide receiver Mike Williams for me. Is it all? He's hit deep. Out of hit. It's a home run for the Chargers in the first round with wide receiver Mike Williams, despite the back injury that's going to keep him out all of camp and potentially all of this season. I'm not convinced he's going to really contribute in any capacity at all. I feel like he's probably going to start the season on the PUP list. And if that's enough to get him healthy, how far along could he honestly be if he is in fact banged up and can't start the season out on the roster, but has to instead start on the PUP list? How much of a factor could he possibly be? Missing all of the mini camps and OTAs and missing all of training camp. How much of a factor could he possibly be at this point? You have to take that into consideration if you're the Chargers. And this isn't Joey Bosa last year and defensive end and holding out. Joey Bosa was perfectly fine and healthy. Joey Bosa was playing defensive end. There's not many things you have to learn as a defensive end. Hey, go out there and go get him. Hey, on this play, we need you to stunt inside. On this play, we need you to twist and loop around outside. There's not a ton of stuff you have to learn as a defensive end / outside linebacker in this league. There is, though, when you're a wide receiver, it's a lot more complex. So we'll see what happens there. But let's go on to the second round with a pick that I'm equally as excited about, but again, melancholy and very hurt for Chargers fans once again, because we're talking about the same issue, this time a lot worse and on a much larger scale. Second round, 38th overall selection. Western Kentucky offensive lineman Forrest Lamp is the selection. Again, bittersweet. He's not going to play at all for you this season. Before things could even get started, you find out that Forrest Lamp has torn his ACL, gonna miss the entire 2017 campaign. And so in effect, he will be a rookie again next season, and we'll see what he's able to bring to the table for you then. I'm gonna tell you what he brings to the table for you now in terms of his skill set, and if he's the same guy. And again, I look at ACL injuries like Tommy John surgery in baseball. Yeah, you're gonna miss a whole year, but when they come back, they're gonna be strong and maybe even stronger than ever. ACL surgeries are run-of-the-mill. They're standard operating procedure at this point now in the NFL. So it's the Achilles, it's the microfracture, it's the torn patella tendon. Those are the ones that scare the hell out of me when you're talking about lower extremities. When you start talking to me about ACLs, I just kind of bat my eyes and say, oh hell, guy's gonna miss some time. You start talking about ACLs, MCLs, PCLs. It sounds horrible, but it's an easy fix because of modern day science and technology. These doctors do a phenomenal job, but nonetheless, he's not gonna play this year, but this is what you're gonna get when he does finally hit the field for you. Size is the first pro. At 6'4", 309 pounds. He's gonna kick inside the guard. Was a tackle at Western Kentucky and a damn good one. But the arms are definitely not long enough, and you actually see that he's not a good fit at the next level for the tackle position. And because of that, as a result, going to have to kick inside, but he's going to be more than fine size-wise inside, even though I've heard a lot of people say he needs to put on more weight and they don't know if he can on that frame. It doesn't matter to me. I think he's perfectly fine at 310 pounds, essentially at 6'4". I think he can get the job done. I think that the Chargers would love to put this guy at center because I think he would be what everyone looks at. And really the comp for him was Zach Martin, the guy the Cowboys took out of Notre Dame a couple of years ago, that has just been phenomenal since he set foot on the NFL field. And a lot of people compare Forrest Lamp, and I see a lot of the same traits and capabilities in Lamp as well. Athleticism, this is another reason why he's a five in the combine, 40 time wise, a 5 flat, 9.25 broad, and 3 cone, all best times at the combine at his respective position. And so again, I thought that him and Bowles out of Utah, Garrett Bowles, put on a display of athleticism that was unmatched by any other offensive lineman on the day, especially when you're talking about some of the better guys in the draft. You want to see those guys go out and compete and look good at athletic wise. And both, I thought Bowles and Lamp did that at the combine. Tremendous movement skills. That athleticism that I just talked about was on display on tape. You turn on any game you like, and it's always great when you see a guy compete against the highest level of competition there is. This guy went up against Alabama and had a whale of a ball game. Mike Mayock said it was the best performance he's seen from an offensive lineman versus that group of offensive linemen in 5 years at least. I also watched him against LSU in 2015, and I thought he did a magnificent job holding up against a much quicker, longer defender in Arden Key. Key beat him a couple of times in that game, but it was a rain-filled, soaked, nasty day, and I thought he hung in tough with the guy that is going to be a high-level draft pick probably in the 2018 NFL draft. And so this guy went up against the best that college football had to offer at the defensive end / outside linebacker position, and I thought he held his end of the bargain up. And it's because of those tremendous movement skills. It's because he's technically sound, which is the next pro. I think he's one of those guys, which is why a lot of people want to, again, compare him to Zach Martin. The hands, the hips, the feet are all in unison. When he moves, everything moves, and they're all working in lockstep with each other. He's not one of these guys where he's lunging because he didn't move his hips or he didn't move his feet, but he's moving his upper body and his hands, but he's not moving the rest of his body, so he's out of position. He's not one of these guys with a narrow base, so when someone contacts him, he's off balance. He's a guy that generally is in the proper position, proper hand usage, proper pad level, proper punch and redirect. He does a lot of things well, technically sound, well coached, well taught, and he's a guy that to me is just ready to take it to the next level as an interior offensive lineman. You're going to have to wait to see if, in fact, he is able to do that, obviously, with the injury. 34 reps of 2 1/4, also a high for his position at the combine, as Strength is another pro of his. Does a really good job. I don't think I've ever seen him get bull rushed. I've never seen him get steamrolled or, picked up and scooped up and dropped into the lap of the quarterback, forcing the quarterback to have to vacate the pocket. The only time that he forces the quarterback to have to vacate the pocket is when he loses to just sheer quickness. And we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But as far as him getting bull rushed, not happening, not Forrest Lamp. Versatility. I think he can play every single interior offensive lineman position that you have, both guard positions, and I think he can play center. He'll need some time to adapt to that, as he didn't do that in college, but I don't think it can be that hard for a guy as athletic as Forrest Lamp. I think he should be able to pick up the nuances of the position. Obviously, you're going to have to learn all of the line calls and the protections and all of those things. Snap the football, get your head up, get set. Those are all things he would have to work on. But again, if taught and having the time to do it now that he's injured, you're not going to see him till next year. He's going to have all the off-season mini camps and OTAs and all of those things to work at those different positions. I think he'll be just fine in making that transition to center if that's what the Chargers decide to do with him. Bottom line is, this is a guy that has everything you're looking for. I'm excited to see what he brings to the table, but again, a little bit disappointed that I won't get to see it in 2017 as we go to his cons. Length is the biggest reason why he has to kick inside. He's not tall enough. He's not long enough to play on the outside on an island. 32-inch arms, not going to get it done. Outside, he can survive with 32-inch arms. Inside, however, and I fully expect him to thrive inside. But again, gonna have to wait for that. Elite quickness beats him when on an island. Well, guess what? Don't have to worry about that anymore. He's not gonna be on an island. He's gonna be inside. I think when he was outside, more space to defend, more space to protect. Harder for him with those short arms. If he gets beat off the line with initial quickness like Arden Key would do sometimes, you don't get to rebound and get back into the play like a guy that has 35-inch arms is able to do when he gets beat initially off the snap and push a guy around the pocket and allow the quarterback to step up. When you got 32-inch arms, you're kind of pushing that air. You're not going to be able to rebound and get back into the play. You're not going to be able to extend that guy out far enough. He's going to be able to shorten that edge and get to the quarterback. And so again, speed, quickness can be problematic for him sometimes, not all the time, just sometimes. And not going to have to worry about that because he's not going to be on an island very often anymore. Going to have help to the inside and not going to have to defend as much space, not going to have to protect as much space. So I think he'll be fine once he kicks inside. And then finally, torn ACL in 2017. Really, it's not even fair to include that, but the fact of the matter is reality has hit. He's not going to play for you this year. So that's something that you have to take into consideration down the road, is how he recovers from that ACL tear. I fully expect that surgery to go well and for him to recover. Just like most athletes at this juncture of their careers, a young man, he should heal quickly. I'm looking forward to seeing Forrest Lamp come in and be a stalwart for you inside, whether it's center or guard, for the next 5 to 7 years, easy if he's able to stay healthy. In the second round, 38th pick overall, Western Kentucky offensive lineman Forrest Lamp for me. Is it all? He's hit deep. You can put him on the board. Yes, it's another home run. Back-to-back jacks for the L.A. Chargers in the first 2 rounds of this draft, even though maybe neither one of these guys may actually contribute in year one. I think you got phenomenal value in the first 2 rounds. It's never an issue of talent with this Chargers team, as I've said before. It's always a matter of getting this talent to stay healthy for them. For some reason, and I can't put my finger on it, they have the worst luck with the injury bug. The Reaper seems to hit them and hit them the hardest of any team in the league each and every single year, and the Reaper is getting a head start this season on this Chargers football team. As we move on to the next pick, 3rd round, 71st pick overall, Indiana offensive lineman Dan Feeney is the selection. This is the guy that I call Dan Meany because he's a physical, mean offensive lineman, nasty disposition. And so we'll get to that in a second. But good thing you drafted another guard, okay? Another interior offensive lineman. But the problem here is you didn't draft this guy just because he was the best player available and you were looking for reinforcements. You drafted him because you needed that much help along the offensive line. And now no Forrest Lamp means Dan Feeney's going to have to step up and be an even bigger fixture along this offensive line. But no worries. He's really up to the task, I believe. Let's talk about him. Size and length are his first two pros. He's longer than Forrest Lamp with 33-inch arms. At 6'4", 305, I think he's going to be just fine playing inside at right guard. I think that's his natural position. They asked him to play right tackle at Indiana in his final season, and I thought he did a bang-up job for a guy that really wasn't comfortable being out there. Thought he did his best, and his best was better than a lot of guys in college football, to say the least. Athleticism, his three-cone was one of the best at the offensive line position at the combine, so that shows you a little bit of the quickness that this guy brings to the table. He's got really quick feet. Again, you look at Dan Feeney, and you're not expecting it. It's not that he's a big sloppy guy. He's pretty lean, as a matter of fact, but I didn't think I was expecting the guy to be as athletically inclined as he was. He actually moves really well. Speaking of which, movement skills and lateral quickness are the next two pros. This guy moves very well. The lateral quickness, a lot of people think he fits well in a zone run blocking scheme because of that lateral quickness and ability to get up the field with that agility. And then also, he's able to get up the field. He's great in the screen game. I can't tell you how many times I saw him out in front of a screen, pulling from the guard position, getting out in front of a screen, releasing a guy, getting up the field, and running 20, 30 yards down the field with a running back trying to get into the play. He does a really good job. His movement skills are a lot better than I think he's given credit for. Gets to the second level and seeks contact, and he's a seek and destroy type of guy once he gets there. So he does a really good job of closing in on a defender, coming under control, and making contact. And he does a good job of sustaining when he does make that contact as well. So he's a second level guy that can get there, seek and destroy. I think he gets to the second level with ease. And again, to that point, I tell you that this is a guy here in Feeney that is extremely gifted getting to the second level. Nasty disposition. I think he's a nastier offensive lineman than that of Forrest Lamp. He just has a nasty demeanor about him. He's looking to just clobber a guy. I mean, he's really looking to give it to him and give you a little extra sauce on the end of plays. Whistle's blowing, and he hears the whistle, but he's gonna make sure he give you a little extra something to take back with you to the huddle. And so he's got a nasty. That's why I call him Dan Meanie, because he's a mean dude. And like I said, it's not a necessity. I didn't bang Forrest Lamp for not being a guy that exudes and exhibits a ton of nasty disposition. He's still a hell of a football player, but I love guys that have that mean streak in them, and Feeney definitely has that. And then the versatility that I spoke of earlier. Right tackle, right guard at Indiana. He's more naturally a guard, and I think that's where the Chargers are going to play him. And now with the injury to Forrest Lamp, they may ask him to do some other things. Who's to say? I don't know the thinking there and if it changes because of that injury or not. But this is a guy that's going to come in and I think play right guard for you. If at all possible, that's where the Chargers probably should put Dan Feeney and see if he can get it done there. As we go to his cons, it's too upright after the snap. His first inclination as the ball to snap is to come straight up. And there's not enough knee bend. The base isn't as steady as you would like it to be. And because of that, you get the next con. He can be bull rushed. And I talked about how Forrest Lamp, rarely if ever, I saw him bull rush. Well, that's not the case for Dan Feeney. Now, again, Feeney was out on the island when I saw him bull rushed as a tackle. I don't think he's as comfortable out there as a tackle because it takes a lot more quickness. It takes a lot more out of you to guard and protect the quarterback out on an island when you have a lot more space to defend than it does when you're at the guard position, where I think he was a lot more comfortable and he's very selfless to make that transition for the team. And this is a guy that I think when inside, he isn't bull rushed as often, but he still stands up straight. So it still is something that can be a problem for him moving forward. And then finally, 2013, he had a foot injury that cost him that entire year. And then even in 2016, he sustained a concussion that cost him 4 games. So that's all on the Carfax report. Something to keep in mind with Dan Feeney. I've talked about the injury bug biting this Chargers team. This is a guy that is no stranger to missing some time due to some ailments. So that's something to keep in mind. But in any event, in the 3rd round, 71st pick overall, Indiana offensive lineman Dan Feeney for me is a triple. Love what this guy brings to the table. Look, there's no secret here. Sam, Tevy, a guy that you take later on in the draft, Dan Feeney, Forrest Lamp, all selected because this Chargers team needs to do a much better job of protecting Phillip Rivers. You're hoping that Dan Feeney is able to come in and not only help protect Phillip Rivers, but also open up more lanes in the run game. I thought we started to see that happen last season for your run game and Melvin Gordon the third. You're hoping that Dan Feeney comes in and continues to move guys out of the way in the run game as well as protect Phillip Rivers. As we get to the 4th round, 113th pick overall, Miami defensive back Jenkins is the selection. This was a guy that I started to really fall in love with at the Combine, went and put on a little bit of tape after watching his performance at the Combine because I walked away very impressed, and I'm still impressed. And so let's start with his size at 6'1", 214, really good size for the safety position in the NFL game. And that size is coupled with athleticism. 4'5", 40, 37-inch vert, 10'6" broad, all big numbers, especially the vert and the broad, among the best at the Combine. That 4'5", not to be laughed at. I know we got these highly skilled and athletically gifted safeties in this particular draft, which make a 4'5" look dangerously slow. But keep in mind, this guy is 6'1", 215. He is not slow in that 4'5". Don't let those other guys running sub 4.5s in this draft, the upper echelon guys, scare you into thinking that this 4'5" is not fast, because it is fast for a safety for sure. Strength and physicality are the next two pros. This is a guy that is looking to lay the lumber each and every single time. He's looking to rock somebody when they've got the rock, or when they're looking like they're trying to go and get the rock. He's a physically imposing safety looking to drop the hammer down on guys. 19 reps of 2 1/4, among the best at the Combine for the safety position. So again, it's a guy that brings a little bit of strength and physicality to the mix. And he's a guy that is looking to tear people's heads off each and every single chance he gets. Ball skills, okay? With that physicality and athleticism, we're sprinkling in some ball skills. So that's always a pro and a positive. This is a guy that used to play receiver, used to play quarterback. So I would love it if his mind worked faster as an ex-quarterback, but he's an ex-receiver, and that gives him a little bit of an edge as a guy with some ball skills. He can go up and high point the football. He goes up and competes at the highest point for the football, which is going to definitely benefit him at the next level with all these bigger targets around the league. 9 career interceptions while at Miami. And he's a guy that was getting it done each and every year, multiple interceptions. It seems like 3 and 2 every year. So he's a guy that is around the football, making some things happen. And the final pro for me is he has enough range to be a viable candidate to play free safety at the next level. I think he can range and run enough to get it done and be a safety that you trust as a single high safety. Again, some of the limitations that I'm going to talk about with his cons makes it less likely that the Chargers will ask him to do these things. But if he can improve upon these things and some film study, and then him just realizing this is what I need to do, maybe he can do this because he's got enough range and athleticism and a leaping ability, ball skills, all of those things to do it. I just want to see him do the things necessary and make some of the necessary adjustments to help him be able to get it done. But I think he has the potential to do that at the next level as we go to his cons. And the first thing that I think is going to limit him and his ability to be an NFL free safety, a true single high true NFL free safety, is lack of instincts. He's one of those guys that wants to see it before he is going to make a break on the football. He's one of those guys, I'd rather play it safe and keep everything in front of me than go after a play and give up something big, which there's a time and a place for that. But sometimes you have to trust your eyes and go and make a play. And he's one of those guys that I need to see it first. I'll give you an example. I'm watching him against Florida State. First play of the game, it's a run. And he sees run, but he needs to make sure it's run. So he kind of takes a step backwards, hesitates, and then he goes and then he attacks the ball. By then, it's a 2-yard gain. He could have been in the backfield for a no-yard gain. And it's those types of hesitations. There's a play in that game where he makes a beautiful play on the football, knocks it into the air, ends up falling incomplete. Had he trusted what he saw a bit sooner, he saw the in cut. He saw what the receiver was trying to do. if he reacts to that sooner, he may pick that pass off, and it's that kind of hesitancy that stops him from making big-time plays, and that's what a lot of people say. Look, that 4.51 is negated. That athleticism is negated if you don't have instincts. You could enhance that 4.51 by being an instinctual football player. That is something that Rayshawn Jenkins isn't necessarily at his this point in his career isn't necessarily a great instinctual player. I'd love to see him improve upon that. Maybe film study, maybe him just being comfortable will allow him to do that, but you didn't see it enough on tape. He can be over aggressive coming downhill. He's one of those guys, I told you, he's looking to drop the hammer each and every single time. So when he comes downhill, he's coming downhill with a purpose and with bad intentions. But sometimes coming down that aggressively leaves you open for interpretation of missing tackles. And he'll do that quite often. And it doesn't take much. When a guy's coming downhill 110 miles an hour, like his hair's on fire, it's not hard to just give him a shimmy, sidestep, and a juke and have that guy just run by or fly by or dive and miss. And you see that with Rayshawn Jenkins from time to time. And then finally, he had a herniated disc in 2014 that required surgery, weightlifting, and so missed the entire 2014 season because of it. And so that's, again, on the Carfax report. That's something that, you know, you stash in the back of your memory bank, and you hope that that doesn't rear its ugly head for this Chargers football team, who's already dealing with enough injuries when regarding this draft class as that's concerned thus far. So this is a guy that I like a lot. I think he's got all of the skills necessary to be an NFL safety, and a damn good one. And in the 4th round, 113th pick overall, Miami defensive back Rayshawn Jenkins for me is another triple in this draft for the Los Angeles Chargers. As we move on to the 5th round, 151st pick overall, Iowa defensive back Desmond King is the selection. Athleticism is the first pro. 4.51 40, 3-cone, and his 20 and 60-yard shuttle, all best at the combine, minus the 4.51 40, which he did not run at the combine. So his 3-cone, his 20 and 60-yard shuttle shows just how quick this guy is, and that quickness may benefit him at the next level as we move on to his next pro. Physical at the line of scrimmage. This guy is a menace and a molester, and just extremely physical at the line of scrimmage. And hell, even to a degree down the field, this guy's draped and groping people down the field, which he gets flagged quite a bit for it, which helps him stay in phase with these receivers. And he's not going to be able to get away with that at the next level. And we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But one thing's for sure, this guy is extremely physical at the line of scrimmage, jamming guys, really trying to lock them up, get the timing off and disrupt the timing of the quarterback and the receiver. And he does a really good job of that. I will say that he, for his size, is a guy that will get in your face, delete the airspace, and really get physical with receivers. Outstanding keying quarterbacks' eyes and end zone coverage. This is where he makes his money right here, is because his ability to key quarterbacks' eyes and play in zone coverage is second to none in this draft. His ball skills are all starts here. The base of his ability to make plays on a football starts with his ability to key quarterbacks' eyes. And he's an LLC, or so even in man coverage, he will look back to the football. But when his eyes are on the quarterback and he's able to see what's going on, yeah, it's a gift and a curse. I watched him get beat versus Penn State, eyeballing the quarterback, thinks the quarterback's going to another route, takes a false step towards that route, realizes that his guy is beating him. It's too late now. Quarterback throws it over the top, touchdown. So it can be a gift and a curse. But when you got 14 career interceptions, which the next pro is tremendous ball skills, when you got 14 career interceptions and 8 in one season, which he had in 2015, that tells you that this guy's ability to see what's going on around him, knows route combinations, is able to play in multiple zones. He's in one zone, overlapping into another zone to make a play on the football. That's when he's his most dangerous. And this guy can get it done and be a turnover machine and start creating some turnovers in San Diego. This guy has the potential to do some big things. Teams just went away from him in 2016. That's why he only had 3 interceptions. You say only, there are guys that would kill for 3 interceptions in 1 year. When you're coming off a season with 8, teams respect what you do and go away from you. And that's what happened to Desmond King in 2016. Also offers you some special teams value if need be. Guy that returned punts and kickoffs while at Iowa. So I don't see him doing anything there. He didn't have not a single touchdown in either one of those positions. But if you need to tap into that, it's there just in case. But we go to his cons, and this is why I have such an issue with Desmond King. There are so many cons here. Let's knock them down quickly. Lacks size, length, and long distance speed. That 4.51 for a guy that likes to come up and press, not good enough. And he gets beat off the line of scrimmage, and he's not fast enough, nor does he possess the length to get back into the play if he initially gets beat off the line of scrimmage. That long distance speed is not there. And so if you get beat off the line of scrimmage and a guy has speed, he's not going to be able to keep up with them. They're going to get on top of him, and they're going to stay on top of him. And if the football is laid out there, he's not going to be able to get back into the play. So that lack of size, length, and long distance speed an issue moving forward if he wants to stay outside, which he has made every plea to try to stay outside, and every team is looking at him saying, look, you need to go and make the transition to safety. And he wasn't trying to hear that for a while. Hopefully he realizes if he wants to play in this league, he's going to have to do what these teams are telling him to do. And so I think he's going to end up being a safety. We'll see what the Chargers do with him. Does it mirror well enough to play in the slot? If you ask me, the next natural progression is, okay, can't play outside. Let's kick him inside. He's got the quickness. I just told you the 3-cone, the 20, the 60-yard shuttles were all good. And so you're thinking, okay, let's kick him inside the slot. I don't think he mirrors well enough. I don't think he shadows receivers well enough. His answer to a receiver with quickness is to just grab the hell out of him and molest him. And you can't get away with that. And as a matter of fact, he didn't get away with that at Iowa. They would flag the hell out of Desmond King because he was a habitual offender, grabbing and groping and yanking guys around and using them to create leverage to get back into a play and deflect footballs and knock them away. And so I don't think he mirrors well enough to kick inside to the slot. So then the next natural progression is, let's put him at safety. Well, my next con is I don't think he's physical enough to be a safety, despite being 201 pounds, which is good enough at his size, 5'10". I don't think he's physical enough. I think he's one of those guys that he'll get in the mix and he'll tackle only when necessary. I don't want my safety tackling only when necessary. I want my safety to be one of those guys that's looking, much like Rayshawn Jenkins, looking for contact, not shying away from it and only helping when it is necessary. And I feel that's what you get out of Desmond King. He's not aggressive as a run defender at all. He's a guy that is, he'll help out if he has to, but if he doesn't, he'll stand around and be a spectator. And so I don't think he's physical enough. And then the last con is he's grabby, which I already mentioned. But more importantly, I think he's a bit of a head case. Okay, this is a guy that I watched on tape in like 3 different games, picking up personal foul penalties foolishly for hitting guys after the play, hitting guys in their helmet, and being out of control. I watched him catch the football. They were getting beat up by Penn State in the game, and they kept kicking it to him, and he couldn't return it on a kickoff. And he got mad and he threw the football down as he was walking away. He's not a head smart football player. He's one of those guys that seems like he can lose control very easily, does stupid things right in front of the officials where it's easy for them to see and flag him for it. To me, he's a bit of a head case. I don't love Desmond King and all of the things that come along with him. And because of that, in the 5th round, 151st pick overall, Iowa defensive back Desmond King for me is a double. This guy could easily turn out to be a triple or even a home run for you down the line because he's talented, no doubt about it. And he's got a penchant for making plays on the football. And because of that, you want to find a way to get him on the field. I think it's going to be at safety. I'm anxious to see what the Chargers do with him and in what way do they employ him on this roster as we go to the 6th round, 190th pick overall. Utah offensive lineman Sam Tevi is the selection. I can't get enough of watching that UCLA game with the Utah offensive linemen. There were 4 Utah offensive linemen selected in this draft. Sam Tevi, J.J. Dillman, Isaac Asiata, and of course Garrett Bowles being the first of those 4 taken in the draft, the first offensive lineman in general taken in this draft. And so that Utah offensive line was phenomenal in 2016 and 2015. And just watching that Euclid game and how they opened up so many holes for Joe Williams and him exploding in that game and really just the end of that season, that magical run that Joe Williams was on and all the yards he gained. Running behind guys like Sam Tevi was impressive. So let's talk about Tevi quickly. 6'5", 311, size, first pro, length goes along with that 34-inch arms. All big caveats for Sam Tevi. Nasty disposition. This was an ex-defensive lineman that was asked to make the switch for the betterment of the team. He was reluctant at first, made the switch, and it benefited him as he ends up being an NFL draftee. But he still plays with that defensive lineman nastiness, and you see it from time to time while on the field. Really, every single one of those Utah offensive linemen have a nasty streak in them, and that's probably part of the reason why they were so damn good in the Pac-12, dominating teams in the latter portion of the season. Solid movement skills. He moves really well for a guy 6'5", 311. I think he moves extremely well, gets to the second level. I watched him destroy guys. Speaking of which, double team and climbing to the second level. He's one of those guys on these down blocks and on these double teams. Man, there's a run in that UCLA game on one of those later touchdowns against UCLA where the guard is blocking a defensive lineman, and Sam Tevi, as he's on the way to the second level, gives the guy a straight forearm shiver in the ribs and knocks him down. Boom! Gives him one of those Street Fighter elbows. Bam! And then gets to the second level, wipes out the next defender, and Joe Williams just takes off for about a 55-yard touchdown. That's what he brings to the table. The ability to help on that double team, climb to the second level, and get another defender. He can seal in the run game. A lot of times with Sam Tevi, it's as simple as turning his hips, getting that ass out, and getting in position and turning that defender, uprooting them, turning them, and sealing off a block and allowing the running back to do what it is he does. And he does that well to me. Seals off well. Struggles to get to the reach block sometimes, but doesn't struggle in turning guys out of the hole and giving the running back a clear, decisive rush lane to run off of. And finally, versatility. He played not only left but right tackle at Utah. And so that's some versatility that right there. You're thinking, okay, I got myself a swing tackle in the 6th round with Sam Tevi, and you need those in this league. And so this guy is a big time candidate for that. As we go to his cons, needs more technique work. He's a guy that I think sometimes is still struggling with the transition from defensive lineman to offensive lineman. Thought he played well for a guy that made that switch while at the collegiate level. And so there's not a lot of experience offensive line-wise for him. And so he still needs to be taught some things. I think he struggles reading the twists and the stunts fast enough sometimes. Those kind of give him a little bit of problems. And when he finally does diagnose it, it's too late. Guys running by him. And so sometimes he struggles with little things like that, the little fine-tuned things of technique and getting your feet. And like I talked about with Forrest Lamp and how everything's in unison, it's not always the case with Sam Tevi. Sometimes the base isn't correct. Sometimes his hand placement isn't where it needs to be. The punch is a little slow. These are all things that you can coach up in a guy that literally hasn't been playing the position very long. So just needs more technique work. And then lacking awareness on twists and stunts. I already mentioned that. That's part of the technique and the technical aspect of things, and just really learning and being aware of what's going on around you, which I think that will come with more time and more coaching for Sam Tevi in the 6th round, 190th pick overall. Utah offensive lineman Sam Tevi for me is another double. As we go to the final pick in this Chargers draft in the 7th round, 225th pick overall. Notre Dame defensive lineman Isaac Rochelle is the selection. 6'4", 280 is where we start there. That's good size for a 5 tech. A lot of people question, is this guy a tweener? Where is his spot at Notre Dame? They played him at defensive end. They played him inside as a 3 tech. I like this guy as a 5 tech at the next level. Comes off the ball with urgency. I think he's one of these guys that if he can learn hand usage, if he can learn some of the finer points of being a legit pass rusher, because I think he's got the ability to do that. The urgency and the aggressiveness with which he comes off the football will aid him in being a disruptive force up front. Right now, there's no rhyme or reason with that. He's just aggressive and urgent off the snap, but it's urgent to nowhere because he doesn't do anything to supplement that urgency and help him win. There's no swim. There's nothing aggressive to go along with that quickness. He just gets off the ball quickly. And so I'd love to see him make some extra moves in there, a spin, a rip, a dip, a swim, something. You don't get that with him right now, but he's got a high motor, okay? Everything he does it 110 miles an hour. Love that about Isaac Rochelle. He's one of those guys that rarely came off the field at Notre Dame. So high motor all the time, and he was reliable and dependable, and I love that about him. Solid at the point of attack. One of those guys that will stand up at the point of attack, engage, and not be moved. And so you can trust him to stand up in the run game if he were to be, in fact, a 5-tech for you as a rotational depth guy. If you were to make this roster, can close down the line and finish as a tackler. You turn on the Texas game. I thought he was phenomenal in that game. And if you're looking for the best of Isaac Rochelle, it's that kind of game, like to the Texas game, where you see him closing down the line, getting in, making tackles, and being disruptive. He can do that, but he doesn't do it consistently enough. The next pro, he's an NFL quality 5-tech, a rotational guy. He's not the one that starts, but in the NFL, unless you have elite defenders, talking about who starts and who doesn't is really of no consequence, because you're going to see guys being rotated in and out along the defensive line. And so I think he's a rotational depth type of defensive lineman as a 5-tech. And I think there's some versatility. That's the final pro. I think as a 5-tech, he's a first and second down run stuffer. And on third downs, if he learns how to rush the passer, which I think he's lacking right now, but I think he has the ability to do so, he could easily be a 3-tech that you slide inside on passing downs with that quickness that he comes off the football. I could easily see him being a disruptive force as a 3-tech that you slide inside on third downs in obvious passing situations. So we go from his versatility and his pros to his cons. Doesn't impact the game enough. For as talented as I think Isaac Rochelle is as a Notre Dame Fighting Irish fan myself, I watched this guy and he would jump off the screen at times. He didn't impact the game enough. He didn't do enough to register. Even though you knew this guy was talented, you knew he could do more. You just didn't get it out of him. He doesn't impact the game enough. Didn't get enough sacks. Didn't get enough tackles for loss. Wasn't a guy that created for other players around him. He didn't do enough to impact the game while at Notre Dame. Not enough pass rush juice. I talked about him getting off the snap quickly, but not having anything to supplement that. He doesn't do anything from a pass rush standpoint. He's just looking to get up the field. But there's no means by which he gets up the field other than I'm going to hustle. I'm going to get off the snap quickly. There's no swim, no rip, no dip, no spin, no nothing. There's nothing aggressive, or I shouldn't say aggressive. There's nothing by way of him using technique, no hand usage, none of that to help him get where he's obviously trying to go, which is to the ball carrier or the quarterback. I just don't think there's enough pass rush juice. And again, that can be taught because I think this guy has enough in the tank to get it done. It just needs more coaching in that element. And then finally, he doesn't stack and shed well enough for me. He's a guy that will stand up an offensive lineman at the point of attack and be stout, but he's not discarding him and getting to the ball carrier. He's just a guy that's going to take up a blocker and take up space. I'd like to see him discard offensive linemen and get to the ball carrier a little bit more often. And because he doesn't do all of those things well, in the 7th round, 225th pick overall, Notre Dame defensive lineman Isaac Rochelle is a double to round out this Chargers draft. Another impressive haul, but again, bittersweet as your first 2 picks of this draft may not help you at all in 2017. We know for a fact your 2nd round pick will be on the shelf for the entirety of 2017. But quickly, let's go over this draft and the scores and get out of here. First 2 rounds, home runs with Williams and Lamp. The next 2 rounds, triples with Feeney and Jenkins. And then the last 3 picks in the draft, King, Tevy, and Rochelle, all doubles. You get a doubles bonus because of those 3 doubles. You put all of that together, it nets you a 22. You divide by 7, and it's a 3.14 triple for the Los Angeles Chargers in the 2017 NFL Draft Wrap-Up Series. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here on the Louie T Network. Come back and join me as I continue to break down anything and now the National Football League. I'm going to see you guys later, and I'm going to have a lot more content coming out a lot more rapidly. I got one question for you, though. Who's next?